What's up everybody, it's Izzy. What I want to talk about in this video is basically how to deal with injuries in powerlifting, at least from the mental side of things, because obviously every injury is going to be a little bit different as far as the recovery and the rehab goes. So the biggest thing that I would say is that when it comes to your mentality in powerlifting, the number one thing that's going to kill it is a feeling like you're not making progress. Now, you don't even have to be injured for this to really start to hurt your mentality. So when you get injured and you're basically physically incapable of making progress, on one or more of the lifts, you're gonna need a game plan to deal with this. And in my experience, if you do powerlifting for long enough, you are going to get hurt. Now, I know that some people don't wanna hear that and they would argue with me on that statement, but if you lift weights competitively for 10 years or more, what I've seen is that basically everybody gets hurt at some point or another. So it's critical that you know basically how to respond, because even if you don't get a major injury, you've probably already had tons of minor ones if you're really honest about it. So the first thing I would say is that you have to make a mindset shift from attacking your rehab and your recovery like a boring task that you have to do and making it just as intense as your training. Now, I know that's a huge ask and it's almost impossible to do 100%, but you have to make that shift, because here's the thing. Instead of looking at your rehab and recovery as like, this thing that you have to do to one day be able to squat again, where you can actually make progress, you have to consider it progress in and of itself. And the reality is that that's actually true, because until you get through your recovery, you can't make progress. So in the same way that when you're gearing up for a big PR, you're gonna film all of your sets, you're gonna take notes on your workouts, you're gonna bring 100% intensity to your effort, you're gonna track your nutrition, you're gonna try to get good sleep. You should be doing all of those things with your rehab efforts as well. Put intensity into it, put passion into it. It's gonna make you recover more quickly, so why wouldn't you be doing that? The quicker you can recover, the quicker you can get back to PRs. When people don't do this, is one of the number one reasons that people get that sense of purposelessness that they lose when their training is gone. But you can actually attack your rehab just like training, and you can find that sense of purpose and recovering as quickly as possible and smashing through your recovery and rehab benchmarks. So the next key piece of advice that I would actually give you is to have recovery and rehab benchmarks and PRs. So just as a personal anecdote, when I tore my adductor tendon, I actually couldn't even do bodyweight squats. I couldn't even go on long walks without it eventually hurting at some point. So of course, when I did my first bodyweight squat after that injury, I counted it as a PR. When I did my first squat with one plate again, I counted that as a PR. And I know that's a bit corny, I know that's a bit ridiculous, but you know what, it works. And if you don't do things like that, you might have a period of 1 year, if your injury is serious enough, where you're not anywhere close to your old levels of strength. So without purposely and actively creating little victories along the way, it is way too easy to get bogged down in the whole process and feel like you're not going anywhere. Again, remember, back to that original point, the sense of feeling like you're not making progress is what's gonna kill your motivation and your positivity. So you have to purposely go out of your way to create that sense of progress for yourself. And the best way to do this is with rehab and benchmark PRs. It may not be an all-time PR, but it's a PR since you got hurt, so track it and mark it like that. It's a big deal, treat it like that. Okay, the last thing I would say is to focus on what you actually can do, and this is probably the biggest one. It's the easiest sell as well. So here's what I mean by that. Let's say you tore your bicep tendon. Okay, I actually had a friend that did this, and he did nothing but safety bar squats for like 3 months because he really couldn't do anything else. And when he came back and he got clearance to finally use both arms again, he actually destroyed his PRs on squat and deadlift. And the reason why he was able to do that is because he focused on what he could do. And this was not a beginner. This was someone who already had a 700 plus squat and a 700 plus deadlift. And he set all-time PRs. A more recent example would be Dan Green. When Dan Green tore his quadriceps tendon, he did a bunch of feet up bench pressing. And he went on to bench like as much as 545 with his feet up. I think he even went higher than that actually. And I do know for sure that he set all-time PRs on his bench press by focusing on what he could do. No, he couldn't do squats or various kinds of deadlifts with a torn quadricep tendon, but he could bench with one of his feet up. And that's what he did. And this is a world record caliber lifter, right? He's a former world record holder, current world record holder, and even he was able to set all-time PRs by focusing on what he could do and not what he couldn't do. And you can do the same thing. Create that sense of progress for yourself by, number one, attacking your recovery and your rehab with intensity. Number two, keeping track of recovery and rehab benchmarks. And number 3, go out and get some actual PRs on the lifts that you can still do. You know, if you mess up your lower body, become, you know, a bench boy or whatever, you know, like bench 6 times a week. Maybe you don't want to change your whole programming, but you can focus more on it. You'll have more recovery resources available to do that. If you can't bench, okay, maybe you do small off or squat. You guys know I'm not a huge fan of that program, but what I'm trying to tell you is that focus on what you can do and create that sense of progress for yourself. And overall, you know, the number one thing that you just have to remember is that there are countless athletes throughout history that have had major injuries, and yours, let's be honest, probably isn't that major compared to like someone snapping their leg in half or something. And there's athletes that have come back from that and eventually gotten back to the previous level that they were at and beyond. So you just need to stay positive. I mean, it's a conscious choice every single day. Stay positive, focus on what you can do, focus on getting better, and don't lose faith in the fact that you will one day be where you were and even further. Because that's the truth of it. If you stick to it for years, you'll get back there and you will surpass those PRs. So stay positive along the way and make sure you find a way to enjoy the journey, because it's usually a pretty long one with any kind of a serious injury. Anyways, that's all I have to say in this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Good luck with your training. And if you are hurt, I hope your injury heals super fast. But as always, my friends, have a nice day.